afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the Rush. Welcome to the Rush for Thursday, the 10th of June 2021. My name is 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚. I want to say thank you very much for joining me on the afternoon rush. As we like to say here on the Rush, let's unpack, folks. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Rush this afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. We want to see, of course, a big shout out to all the people looking at us from YouTube, looking at us from Facebook. Thank you very much. Remember to share the live stream, share and like if you're on YouTube. Remember, you have to subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll get to a chance to know when we are live every single time. You'll get a notification. Subscribe. Don't be afraid to subscribe, folks. My name is 𝐏𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐴𝐿. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. As the program heading says, today we are going to be looking at Parliament. Today was the 28th sitting of the 12th Parliament, and quite a lot of interesting things coming out. Quite a lot. We are going to be unpacking that. We are going to be joined by the opposition parliamentarians, the opposition MPs, in just a few as they help us to unpack what played out today. Quite an interesting day in Parliament. Right off the bat, I can tell you that the Speaker of the National Assembly, refused to hear a motion on the flooding situation in Guyana, claiming that it is not urgent. That is what he said. It doesn't meet the requirement of urgent. It is of public interest. It is definite. It's definitive, but it does not reach the criteria as being urgent, right? Speaker of the National Assembly. So opposition MPs are in Parliament trying for Parliament to come to some sort of decision, to make some sort of decision on the flooding situation in Guyana. The Speaker of the Assembly shut that down when it was brought up by the Honorable Member 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐿 that this matter needs to be addressed. And we're going to talk about this today because this is quite significant. It is quite interesting and it's quite significant that the Speaker of the Assembly would come to such a conclusion that this matter of flooding situation in Guyana is not urgent. Take note, this is not, I'm not 𝐏𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐿 saying this, you know. This is what the Speaker of the National Assembly said, that he would not allow this motion to be heard. He would not allow this motion to be read because it didn't meet the criteria of being urgent. Folks, we're going to be unpacking that with the MPs in just a few. Let me just, of course, take a breath because I was quite worked up today listening to the madness on playing out in Parliament as the Speaker was bent on shooting down any motion or any discussion that would cast the PPP in a bad light. So we mustn't talk about the flooding situation and what is happening to thousands of Guyanese, this national crisis. We must not talk about the national crisis that is displacing Guyanese because according to the Speaker, it isn't urgent. Folks, you think it's joke? It's not joke. Well, let us go to our usual greetings this afternoon before we get to unpacking some of what is happening in the news. We want to say thank you very much to those persons joining us. Let us know where you're joining us from. That is what we always say here. Let us know where you're coming from. Where you come from. Yes. Junior Stevens. Father help Guyana. I'm reading some of the comments here. Folks, let us know where you're joining us from. Which part of the world, which part of the country, part of the village, which part of the universe you are looking at this afternoon rush from. Good afternoon to all of you again. Let me just give you your usual shout out. Barbados in the house, Barbies in the house. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much. I like to see the people, Barbados people. We know you're always locked in. Our Caribbean people are always locked in. East New York, Thank you very much for joining Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you guys are in action again tonight. The Brooklyn Nets taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks are down 2-0. 2-0. Whew. It's going to be interesting in that series. Right. Yes, folks. Welcome. Good afternoon. Watching us from Leopold Street. Thank you very much. Liberty Avenue, Queens. Liberty Avenue, Queens. Thank you very much. Holland is in the house. Brazil. Brazilian people. Right. Our neighbors there. Thank you very much for being a part of the program. Barbies in the house. Good afternoon to all of you. As you come into the live stream, hundreds of you I'm seeing, as my colleague would share Duncan. Hundreds of you are on already. And you need to share the live stream. Don't be stingy with the thing. Do not be selfish with it. Let other persons know about the credible and valid information that we unpack here every single day for your benefit, for your guidance, all for your guidance and benefit. We take the time to bring you the information that is happening, the information that is of concern to you. Toronto is in the house. Listening from Paris all the way in France. Thank you very much. North Ranville. Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta. Y'all looking good. Y'all battling with the 76ers. Y'all looking good. Essequibo is in the house. Los Angeles. Ooh, that's going to be an interesting game tonight. The LA Clippers and the Utah Jazz. My Jazz are doing quite fine. I really enjoy watching the Jazz play. Toronto, Barbies. Right. Thank you very much. Somebody said it's what they're watching from the job, watching from Belladrum, watching from BVI. Thank you, Evan. New Amsterdam is in the house. Right. I like when my viewers, right? GT Root, yes, enough of the talking. Time for protest. Well, enough of the talking. It's time for getting to the unpacking. Let me put up your comment up there, GT Root. Y'all like your style. Enough of the talking. Time to protest. Well, I'm hoping that when the protest is called, GT Root, y'all is out there in the front of the line, holding the line of battle. Because there are many persons who like to say, you know what? Let's get the streets. Let's do this. Let's do that. And when the roll is called, not up yonder, but right here is called right here. There are many of us who turn out to be keyboard warriors alone. We know how to type a good thing, you know. We like to type fighting words, but we want to fight. We could type a good fighting word. But when the roll is called for those persons for boots on the ground, you don't see them. You don't see them. So, yes, that's it's all good. And there's all well and good to be behind your keyboard and typing those fighting words. But let's see who will be there when the roll is called. Lyndon is in the house. Lyndon is in the house. Thank you very much. Folks, we've made the magic number. Let us go. Let us start unpacking. Of course, today was the sitting of the 28th sitting of the 12th Parliament, and it was quite interesting. As I said, we'll be joined by some MPs in a bit because the Parliament is adjourned at the moment. The word suspended is right. GT Girl has replied. Let's see. I will put up her comment. What she said. I'll be here over there in the USA. We do go out. All right. I hear you, GT Root Girl. Right. So Parliament was today. But before we get to Parliament, I want to, of course, remind us that COVID-19 is still real and is still with us, folks. We have to be cognizant of the fact that COVID-19 is still with us. It is still with us, so we need to ensure that we do all that we need to do to protect ourselves and our families because, folks, the numbers are rising. The numbers are rising. We have hit 419 persons. 419 persons. We are quickly running away, going closer and closer to that 500 mark. We're at 419. 419, folks. Please, please let us do what we have to do to protect ourselves and our family. COVID-19 is real and it is with us. It is with us, folks. What else is happening around the country, folks? We see this. What can I say? Let me just take a moment here, because I saw a report. I saw a report by the New York Times when they said severe flooding in Guyana, about 6,000 persons affected. Now, 6,000 is a way off from 30,000. And this report is saying it here. Nearly 30,000 households impacted by floods and rainy conditions continue into August. We know we've seen the changing weather patterns, folks. We have seen the changing weather patterns. We see rainy seasons extended. So it's not just May, June anymore, you know. It's not just May, June anymore. It's May, June, July, August. Normally, July, August, the place hot. They are predicting that this rainy season will be an extended one. And this 6,000 we hear them now, 30,000 households. You multiply that about, let's say about average about 4 persons a household. You're talking over 100,000 people there severely affected by this flood. There are some people that really don't have anything to go back to. Simply put, there are some people who don't have anything to go back to. Those people in up region 10, 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚𝐬𝐿, some of their homes have been completely covered with water. Granted, they are living close to the river and the mouth of the river, and the swelling of the river will have caused it. But these people now have to figure out where they are going to turn. Who is going to help them? Who is going to help these people? Folks, it's a really sad situation. Really sad situation, and we continue to let you know that there is a flood emergency center at the office of the leader of the opposition that is on 39 Crowell Street. 1 building before Japar. It's about 4 buildings before Camp Street. When you're going down, it's easy to find. You can ensure that you go down there and you get your information and share information on what is happening in your area. Before we move on, folks, let me say very, very happy birthday. Happy birthday to Miss Comrade Vola Lawrence, who is celebrating her birthday today. We want to shout out a happy birthday to her. Let me see. I want to pull that picture because we have a picture, you know, we have a picture of those persons who are looking, who don't know today is Vola Lawrence's birthday. So we are shouting out happy birthday to her. I'm going to get that picture and put it up because I want you to see. I want you to see it is her birthday, so we are saying happy birthday to her. I don't think that we have the picture, but birthday greetings are extended to Miss Vola Lawrence today. Let's continue. Let us continue, folks. Now, as we know, the National Assembly met today after some 80-something days, since March 2nd, I believe, and it was quite interesting. First of all, we saw that the two persons who were suspended, well, not suspended, were asked to. They were asked to leave, leave the National Assembly, vacate their seat. They did not turn up today. Of course, the leader of the opposition wrote a very strong letter to the Speaker, and he commented on it today in Parliament that he is pleased that the Speaker took the honorable step and disallowing these two young people to be a part of Parliament after the Chief Justice would have ruled that they should not be there. Unlawfully appointed parliamentary secretaries absent from sitting. Speaker says court ruling will be followed. It's unlike the PPP to follow in rules and regulations. So it is a pleasing sight to see that this was done. But of course, they've been, as the people say, gallivanting around the country as members of Parliament ever since that ruling was passed down. So we see that they didn't turn up today for Parliament. But we are in our segment of Parliament update. What is happening? What happened today? What was the big story? What was the big story? When I was a part of Link Show, we had a market skit, and the police officer used to come out and say, "What is the story?" Well, we're going to tell y'all what is the story today. We're going to be joined by MP 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚𝐦𝐞𝐧𝐭 in just a bit, and he's going to unpack some of what happened in his presentation, because it was quite interesting. Quite interesting. I want to put this piece of story up there. Say, what is the story? This is the story. Right. Let me put it up big. The Minister of Labour has nothing to do with health situation in Guyana, said. The ministry has nothing to do with the health situation in Guyana, said the Minister of Labour, Joseph Hamilton, when questioned on Thursday by opposition member of Parliament, 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚𝐦𝐞𝐧𝐭, about a number of persons who tested positive for COVID-19 at the Aurora gold mines. This is the story. Labour Minister refuses to answer questions on COVID-19. And we're going to get into all this thing, but this is one of the stories coming out. Let's jump in right now, folks. I'm now joined by Member of Parliament for the opposition side, the Honourable 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚𝐦𝐞𝐧𝐭. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, Randy. What's up?
I'm good. I'm finally happy to see Parliament back. We had a prolonged period where there was no Parliament.
98 days.
How many?
98 days of an unofficial prorogued Parliament.
Wow. Unofficial prorogation of Parliament for 98 days. And if you don't take that as a sign of this dictatorship that we live in, then nothing is. 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚𝐦𝐞𝐧𝐭, let's jump in with this story. I know that you asked the Labour Minister, who is responsible for Labour issues, and I would think that the health of workers would fall right in his lap as a Labour issue. Your thoughts on this is non-answer answer.
I was shocked. It's as if you asked the minister, what is his position on the countless of public servants that got dismissed. He seems as if he would have pointed you to the agency where those workers were displaced, which is most unfortunate. And in a crisis, Randy, in a pandemic, it would be prudent for to be a linkage between respective ministries so that you could coordinate certain information. Not to say I am not responsible. Who else is responsible for workers other than the Labour, the unions, and the Minister of Labour? So I was baffled. I was dumbfounded by the minister's response, and it was most unfortunate. I must say, most unfortunate.
When I read that story, 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐥𝐢𝐚𝐦𝐞𝐧𝐭, I immediately went to the fact that over the months of the 312 days of this administration, we see a blatant lack of any planning and coordination. So you are telling me, you are going to say to me, I am the minister responsible for Labour. We have workers who are being affected. There is no sort of coordination between the Minister of Labour and the Minister of Health, so that one of them can get up and say, this is the situation and this is how I'm working with the Ministry of Health to help these workers in this situation.
The man is least concerned if workers are getting their NIS.
Wow.
I mean, that's the nature of this administration. They're uncaring, selfish, and just don't care about the interests of Guyanese.
Yeah.
So
Man said that he said that his ministry is not responsible for health. So it's just baffling. These are the kind of statements that in developed countries people lose their jobs for.
yes,
It
yes.
quite interesting. MP, let's take you to another story that came out of today's sitting, part of today's sitting. They, I think it was Charles Ramson. It was Charles Ramson who said that the APNUFC did nothing for the people of Linden, and how the lights at Mackenzie Sports Club ground were given by Gail Teixeira. When, of course, this is blatantly false, and it falls smack into our segment where we normally say PPP you lie. PPP you lie. Tell us about this issue, German.
Charles Ramson is a pathological liar. And when I raised the issue in Parliament by saying he has been misleading the House by
Mm-hmm.
giving fraudulent information that is not premised on truth nor fact, the
Mm-hmm.
Speaker essentially provided some level of protection to say to me that
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that the minister is misleading the House when the
Well,
evidence suggests so. But that will
yeah,
be done. That will be corrected when I go back into the House. I will take the opportunity to inform the House that the minister was indeed misleading the House, and I
yeah,
will inform them that it's in the public's domain. It's in the national newspaper, the Chronicle, where the former director of sport, Mr. Christopher Jones himself, participated in the donation of lights to the Mackenzie Sports Ground. So the minister
yeah,
was indeed misleading the House. And
yeah,
he would have consistently dodged a lot of important questions that deals with the spending of taxpayers' money, particularly on community-based grounds. And
yeah,
that is another sad and unfortunate reality of a government that don't want to be transparent, that doesn't want to be accountable to the Guyanese public, especially taxpayers who that they would have denied, even though they promised them two budgets later, no increase in their salaries.
yeah. And
The-
when we say PPP alive, for those persons were wondering what we're talking about, it was Charles Ramson who stood up today and said that it was Gail Teixeira who donated the lights. And sometimes I believe that the PPP thinks that there is no sort of record and the internet doesn't exist. When you got simple Google search, you find this article that shows you director of sport hands over flood lamps for Mackenzie Sports Club ground. A
This
very
time, a
young,
long time.
but Christopher Jones has aged since then because he looks very young in this picture for some reason. But it is what you're saying. It's not a long time. The information is there. We can see it. So again, PPP you lie. Jeremy, any thoughts before you go on the proceedings today?
Well, that picture there is evident that the minister was lying. The
Mhm.
minister misled the House. The
Yeah,
director of sport, Christopher Jones, handing over the lights to the president of the Mackenzie Sports Subground, Mr. Avery Trim,
yeah,
when that handing over was done. The
yeah,
minister has not yet provided this nation with information with regards to how is it that he made the determination of which community grounds will be enhanced with this year's 2021 budget allocation. He has
yeah,
not informed the House. He has not informed the Guyanese public. How is it that he made a determination on his own, consulted with himself, and
hmm,
said that each ground should have $10 million? How
yeah,
is it that you could make such an allocation when every community is different, when
yeah.
every ground facilities are different? So I want to know, where did he concoct such a thought
What about
to
the grounds
say,
that may need more? May need a 20 million. They just
I
got
don't
near.
know exactly? So you would have denied some ground the opportunity to have much more infrastructure because one ground may have certain things that the other another ground may not have. So instead of giving 10, you probably could have given 5 and give another ground 15
Yeah.
based on how the differences in each ground and community needs
Yeah.
are. So I
Yeah.
really wanted to have an understanding
Yeah.
of how is it that this gentleman come up. I mean, did he consult with himself? Who did he consult with? And then he said to us that the mini stadiums that are to be built in Region 10, Region 6, and Region 2, the
Mhm.
areas were already identified. How are
What?
these areas identified? No consultation with the people were done. And you
Yeah.
owe it to the people, particularly the people of Region 10, that is the hub of talent in athletics in all of the various sports discipline, to consult with them. We would have shown our prowess in all of the sports discipline in athletics, and we would
Mhm.
have given this nation countless recognition on the international platform. And you
Yes.
owe us that level of respect to come and say to us, this is your plans, what it is that you want. You cannot force development on a people. Development has to be a twofold conversation, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's not your personal money that you're spending that you don't have to consult. It's taxpayers' money. And you
Yes.
must engage the taxpayers in the development that you want them to benefit from. And they will have a greater appreciation for the development, especially when they have an integral role to play and contribute towards the development that they are going to be the recipients of. So the
Yeah.
minister has a dictatorial approach when it comes to managing the affairs of the ministry, and that doesn't augur well for the Ministry of Culture, Youth, and Sport. It's
Well,
disappointing.
that is just true to form as to how the PBP manages everything. But before you go, MP Fergus, sorry, Figuera, I'm going to ask all of the MPs who come on this same question on this same matter, and I would like to know your thoughts on the Speaker of the Assembly, Sir Mansour Nadir, claiming or refusing to allow a motion on the flood situation in Guyana on the account that it is not urgent. Your thoughts on that?
I'll say this. This is the worst disaster in Guyana's history since independence. Since we know ourselves as a country, the worst disaster. 9 of our 10 administrative regions, Randy, has been
Yes,
affected by flooding.
severely.
This flooding far supersedes that of 2005.
Yeah,
So for the for the Speaker of the House not to acknowledge, not to accept and appreciate that position Mr. Maipa would have put to the floor as a
mhm,
matter of urgent, that requires urgent attention, it's most disappointing, and it goes to show that the Speaker of the House, I mean, sometimes the decisions that he make, you
yeah,
wonder if he's being a political tool for the government. You
mhm,
wonder if he has an independent mind. And I know he's probably listening. And when he came to the house, I had a ray of hope based on
mhm,
his speech, in his embryonic speech that he made to the house. And
mhm.
I said to myself, then, this guy, I think he will do good. But now my feelings has changed, and I trust, and I'm an optimist, Randy, and I
Yeah,
believe the views are articulated not only by us but by the general public, that he will refashion how he handles the speakership of the house. You are the speaker not for the PPP, you are the speaker for the National Assembly,
yeah,
which is an embodiment of the government and the opposition. And your position as speaker must, as close as possible, mimic some form of neutrality.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I am not seeing that. I'm disappointed, I must say. But like I said, I am an optimist, and I'm hopeful that good sense will prevail, and the speaker will come to the speedy realization and reality that he is the Speaker of the Guyana's Parliament and do what is expected of him. His legacy is on the line. Don't allow yourself to be a political tool of the government. Judge fairly. That is what I have to say
I will
about that.
say this based on my observation from the day I heard that motion being shut down. I heard the flaring motion for Patterson being shut down for some reason or some court case that came up after. It seems as though the speaker is trying his level best to ensure that nothing bad is debated or spoken of in Parliament that would cast the PPP in a bad light. That is just my observation. I may be wrong.
That is the view shared by thousands of other Guyanese, Randy. That is the view that is shared by thousands of other Guyanese. And like I said, I trust that with those views articulated by many Guyanese on both sides of the divide, good sense would prevail, and the speaker will realize that he's a speaker for the Guyana's parliament, and the world is watching.
That's a good note to end on. MP Figueroa, I know you have to get back to the business of the house. Thank you very much for sharing this time with us. Right. That was Jeremy Figueroa, MP from the opposition side, of course, from region number 10. From region number 10. So that issue today, that issue today with Mr. Ramson, saying that the lights for the Mackenzie Sports Club ground was given by Gail Teixeira. Well, of course, it's a blatant lie. These people from Linden know exactly what was done by the APNU AFC for region number 10 and Linden in specifically. Folks, we are going to be joined now by former Minister of Public Infrastructure, Mr. David Patterson, MP David Patterson, General Secretary of the AFC, and he is going to talk to us because we are still in Parliament update. What has happened today? What played out today on the floor there at the Auditorium Conference Center? Let's welcome Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, Randolph. How are you? Good afternoon to you and your viewers.
I'm great. I was busy. I was taking copious notes as the president. You guys were presenting, Justin, because I have some questions. I'm enthralled by the negation of this by the speaker and his attempts to try and shut down or shoot down anything that will cast the PPP or the government in a bad light. So we mustn't talk about flooding. We must not talk about flaring. We must not talk about anything that will go out there that cast the government in a bad light. Your motion that was supposed to be heard, and this is the flaring motion, was set aside because there is some court case that you pointed out quite rightly came up some months after that motion was put to the House.
Right.
Expand on that for the people out there, to the audience, to understand what happened.
Right. So as the nation knows, there's been a major issue with flaring and Exxon flaring. It's a major local and international issue. So in February, on the 22nd of February, I tabled a motion which is primarily calling on them to obey our laws, and it languished on the paper since February the 22nd until today. Lo and behold, when we came today, of course, I came prepared to debate my motion. When I arrived today, we were told that there's a court case issued in May, 22nd of May, 21st of May, exactly 3 months after that I would have laid the motion. Of course, Parliament did not meet since March.
Yes.
So all this while, these 3 months is languishing there. Now that they finally met after so many days, he says, well, because of the court case, our debate may be prejudicial and sway the judges or so forth, and he disallowed it. One of the strangest rulings, but obviously it is what it is. You know, I mean, the speaker is elected by the government side, so I don't think he exercised any discretion whatsoever, as we are trying to say that. You know, I mean, this is an international issue. It's been on the order paper for months, and you just disallowed it. And just like the strangest thing, he said how the flooding is not important. We can't debate that. While some of our citizens that you know, as you speak right now, they're under feet, 10, 15 feet of water, and their livelihoods have been destroyed. He determined it's not important enough for us to discuss.
Well, the word that he used was, he's trying to let all of the words definitive and public importance and urgent. He wanted to qualify all of them. It seemed to me that he came with this prepared response, and he highlighted this thing to say that, look, this thing, urgent mean that it must come up suddenly as an emergency. I don't know where that definition of urgent came from. As Mr. Mike Paul would have highlighted, it's livelihood, people's lives are at stake. How is that not urgent?
Exactly. You mean, look, I pointed out several things to them. I mean, before the speaker ruled, the Minister of Health made a plea for people to get vaccinated. Then he called out certain regions which he said out that they weren't cooperating. But I had to tell them straight, one of the reasons they're not cooperating, they don't trust you.
Yeah.
And they have all right not to trust you. I mean, said, if you want us to help, get us involved. Don't come and ask us to take Facebook pictures and sit with a placard saying get vaccinated. Those things. We can do that, but we have to go in and engage the people. Exact same thing about flooding. When you go to every area, the people have gone there and they're giving selective persons hampers and those things like that. They give one person, one community hampers, full set of hampers so they could last a week or two, and then they give one other communities a bag of rice or a bottle of bleach or those things like that. So if we don't do these things holistically, if they don't stop playing these games with our citizens' lives, we wouldn't get anywhere. So that's it. You know what I mean? Flaring is an issue. I mean, I brought a motion on zoning. You know what I mean? That right now with oil and gas,
Before we get to the zoning, Minister, before we get to the zoning, I want to stay here on the flare because I don't want I want to underscore the importance of what Mr. Ramjatan brought up. This sort of extension to this rule, this qualification to this rule about matters in court and matters being adjudicated. Now, let me just put a scenario to you. Exxon is flaring. Exxon has good reason to not want this to come up in Parliament. You understand? I'm making a scenario here. They have their lobbyists now decided, you know what? We don't want the Parliament debating our flaring. Let us throw some nails in the pot to mess up the food. We are going to bring charges because we know that if something is in court, they can't debate this thing. And this is what Mr. Ramjatan was saying. Look, you can't hold up the legislative process simply because anybody bring a case. Your thought?
Exactly, Randolph, and that's the crux of the matter. So therefore, any important matter going forward that the opposition brings up to Parliament, which will embarrass the government, which will show that how they're incompetent and those things like that, all they need to do is file a court case, and that now stops us from debating it. You know what I mean? And that is the crux of the entire matter. What we're saying is that, look, listen to me, they should not be able to hamstrung the Parliament, the highest deliberative body in the country. You should not be able to just file a case, no matter what are the merits of it. It hasn't been heard. The case has been filed on the 21st of May. It hasn't been heard for the first time, nothing at all, but you know, disqualified because of that. So therefore, you know what I mean, anything that we do now, all you have to do is find a plaintiff, and there are hundreds of lawyers, you know, there are hundreds of lawyers. They file an action, even if it's thrown out on the very first case, it stops you from representing the people fully.
And even if we let our minds cast a little forward, a little wider, you brought up today your motion, the motion that you
on the shore, on the location of shore bases.
Location of shore bases. Now, this is another contentious issue because we see the private developers, whether it's TriStar or whatever, developing and
willy-nilly without any permission.
destroying the mangroves. Now, let's just say that they have interest in not having that being heard in Parliament. What is stopping them from? What is stopping them from sending somebody to file some sort of something in court so that that is not heard? And it is quite. And I like what Mr. Ramjatan said. You can't we can't let Parliament be hamstrung by these anybody coming and throw motion. So, but let's get to that though, Mr. Before you go, before I know you're busy, let's get to the motion that you brought today. And interestingly, I heard zoning in it also. Give the viewers an idea of what you're proposing in terms of the zoning and other aspects of your motion.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that Houston, where we have that shore base Gisby, that was the only facility that could have handled oil and gas. I mean, it was a container port. It wasn't fully opened, and it converted into. And as a result of that, the entire Houston area is now commercial activities. You know what I mean? You go. So the residents in South Rumvelt are affected in MacDoom, Agricola, and all the East Bank. On top of that, people are closing off canals. If you're driving in Houston, you see that they closed off a canal, they closed off a sluice. They're just doing whatever they want, and they're doing sort of land grabbing. And obviously, and the only reason that permitted is because there's no regulation, there's no zoning. You know what I mean? People in Houston carried the EPA and the government to court because they were giving permission to people to store chemicals, hazardous chemicals that could affect your life. You know what I mean? Right next door to them, and they bought the property. When they bought the property, and I read out a few transports that when they bought the property, the transport said so no commercial business, no business whatsoever, and so forth. And they would have paid good money for their property in Houston to live with, to move. They invested their life spending in it, and then right next door to them, without any permission, without any recourse, persons are putting up monstrosities and those things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if the country does not have a regulation and a plan, this will happen all over, just like it's happening in Tri-Star. I mean, they just went and bulldozed 6 acres of rainforest, of mangroves, and put the entire area, Schoonards and Freedom Hoop area at risk. Yeah. And no recourse. You know what I mean? EPA didn't give them permission. Sea Defense didn't give them permission. No one gave them permission, but because that's the way this government operates. You know what I mean? Friends and family. You mean if you're their friend or the family or the support, you can do no wrong to the detriment of the community. So the motion is to stop this Wild West that is going on, to ensure that we progress as a country. We want to move from being a third world country to a first world country. We have oil and those things like that. There are certain things that are required for you to move from point A to point B, and planning, zoning, rules of law, respect, transparency, lack of corruption. These are the things that has to be done. And so we in the opposition are brought this motion to see, one, to highlight to the public what's going on, and secondly, to see if we can get the government, very unlikely, because of course this is enriching their friends and their families and their supporters. And of course, you know, I mean, you have to pay them back for all the money they were giving them while they were in opposition and for the campaign and those things like that. So they'll turn what we call a Nelson eye, a blind eye to it. But it's our job to highlight it. It's our job to keep fighting.
Yeah. And finally, Mr. Patterson, MP Patterson, you brought up a very cogent point during your presentation about the opposition. I know you mentioned it before, the opposition not being included in the efforts, especially on these issues that affect nationally and on any state board. I don't know if you want to comment on that and the PP's lack of inclusion. They talk inclusionary politics, but they don't act it. Go ahead.
Well, listen to me, right? On every state board, while we were in government, we made a place for the opposition. And obviously, why they're there, so therefore they're there, they can represent their constituencies and those things like that. So if we had a representative on, say, the Sea Defense Board, that representative would have been able to express our disgust of what's happening. He would be able to come out and say, listen to me, that I raised these points and the board has overlooked it and they're not doing this and those things. Not having, stacking these boards with only their supporters, there is no accountability whatsoever. this is a vast difference of how we govern versus how they govern. You know what I mean? And I started off saying like the health, they're not included. COVID task force. There's 50%. I mean, the electoral balance is 50-50. That's how the last elections numbers, if you want to believe them, are 50-50. You know what I mean? You have one person at 50.1, they said a 49 point. You know. Yet our 50% has no representation whatsoever. So we don't count.
Yeah.
You know. I have to go back, unfortunately.
Right. Thank you very much. I know you have to leave the business.
No problem. I'll be back on again, Randall.
Right.
Cheers.
Thank you. Folks, you're listening there to the Member of Parliament, former Minister of Public Infrastructure, Mr. David Patterson, who had one motion set aside because of some court case. This is the motion to deal with the flaring of Exxon flaring. So the PPP want the people to talk about Exxon flaring. You can't talk about flooding. You can't talk about Exxon flaring, right? And then, of course, he presented the motion for the location of shore bases in the country because you don't want any and every way people going to do like what TriStar did, and just clearing away the mangroves and doing what you want to do. So it must be some sort of order. Like, you know, I understand those two. Interestingly enough, folks, you know, I've always, for the last couple of months, I've been lamenting the point of our Narcotics and Psychotropic Substance Act Amendment Bill. This is Bill number 2, which was let the bill be read the first time in the Parliament. It was presented today, not fully read, but I am happy to hear this bill coming up. I'm happy because it was only a few days ago I lamented the fact that the police arrested a man for 2.4 grams of marijuana. So when I heard the PPP bringing up the Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substance Act Amendment Bill number 2, I was very happy. I was very happy because some common sense will prevail. Suddenly will start to prevail in this country. Hopefully some sort of common sense will prevail in terms of the narcotics bill. We are wasting a lot of money as a country, wasting a whole lot of money, and I do hope that we can amend this. We can amend that bill to decriminalize. And this is the issue for those persons who are not afraid with what is happening. Those persons who are not up on what is happening with this bill. What it is right now is that any amount by law of any amount of marijuana is deemed illegal. Of course, this law has been relaxed, so to speak, because over the years it has become very clear to the police and to the law officials that taking a man from the street who got a spliff in his hand and putting him in jail for a couple of years really is a waste of resources, and it's taking a breadwinner from the house for something that costs what, $200. So it needs to be amended. It needs to be, and so there were talks a few parliaments back, and presentations were made. This is when people presented a spliff in the parliament. Spliff went to the parliament, but talks about pushing it up to 500 grams, 30 grams, 300 grams, a number of things. Wherever it is, wherever it ends up, it will be better than saying that all of it is illegal. So at some point in time, we hope that this bill is pushed to the front of the line. Push to the front of the line so that we can have some sort, you know, this is, I don't know if people realize how popular that bill is. It has been too long, far too long. Persons are being, you know, victimized and criminalized for a spliff, as the people call it. Folks, it's time for a question of the day. It is time for our question of the day. Now, in the light that, of course, the Speaker of the Assembly seems to be showing this obvious and clear bias In light of that, we are asking that simple question today. Simple question. Do you believe that the government or the government side of the house should be allowed to pick the speaker? And if not, what process should they use when determining the speaker, who should be the speaker of the house? Because it has been a bone of contention for many years. Whoever is the opposition would cry that the speaker is biased, simply because the speaker was chosen by the government side. So the question we are asking today is whether or not you believe that this practice should continue, that the government side of the house picks the speaker of the assembly. And if not, what process do you think they should use to come to the agreement on a speaker of the house? Let us know. Let us know what you think. Hit us up in the comment section. We will post your comment. We will post your comment. Right? We will post your comment and let everyone see what you're thinking. Right? So Guyana cannot have a Speaker of the National Assembly as a member of the ruling installed PPP because the opposition party will not decide. Let us know, do you believe that the Speaker should be chosen the same way? Right? Somebody is saying here that the Speaker of the House should be neutral. Speaker of the House should be neutral. Yes, of course we understand this. This is what it should be. Quite often, this is not what is. We know what should be. But we're asking, is it the process of choosing the speaker that we need to change? Is it how we choose the speaker? Is it giving one side too much power in the house and taking away this idea of this unbiased idea of someone who is fair and balanced, so to speak? That's what we want to know. Folks, I really can't share some of these comments. I really can't. I want to, but I really can't share some of these comments. But like I was saying, coming out of the parliament today, and this is why we are asking this. This is why we are asking this, because we saw this bizarre decision by the speaker. This very bizarre decision by the speaker to disallow the motion on the flood situation in the country on the account that he presumes that it is not urgent. It doesn't meet the criteria of urgent. Of course, they were moving motions on matters definitive, urgent, and of public importance. And the speaker, my observation here, he was very quick on the draw. He had a prepared answer to this question on the flood. He had his quote. He said somebody somewhere said something. I don't quote me. I unfortunately I didn't get that part of it. But he is calling on precedents to say, you know what, urgent. The flood situation is not urgent because urgent means that it has to pop up suddenly and it's a national emergency. I don't know what the flood is if that is not urgent. But folks, we're asking the question of, should the Speaker of the Assembly be chosen by the government side? Or if not, how would you choose the Speaker of the Assembly? What process would you use to choose the Speaker of the... Right? Somebody is saying, again, the Speaker should not be compromised. Folks, you're telling us things that we know. I want to know, what do you believe? Let me take another comment here. My thought is the Speaker should be chosen by the House and not by an individual party. Well, the problem with this is a noble suggestion, but the problem with this is that the party that has the majority will obviously get the last say in who becomes the Speaker, even if you put it to a vote in the House. So this we might end up back at square one with this particular suggestion. Right? Folks, so many things to unpack. The parliament will be on again, and we will be coming back a little later with some more updates, because the house is going to be reconvened in a few moments if they are not already doing so. But no, sorry, I don't think they will be. If they are, we'll be coming back a little later. I know we'll be in the ring with Chair Duncan at 6 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, sorry. Now is 6:39, 6:40 in Georgetown, Guyana. I want to thank you very much for staying with us this afternoon. We had some fun discussing what happened in Parliament today, letting you know that we'll be on tomorrow breaking down other major issues. We encourage you to like and share. Like the page, share the live stream. If you're looking at us from YouTube, thank you very much. Give us a subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we're on again. Those persons who would like to, you can follow me right there at Reality Refugee on Twitter and on Instagram, same reality_refugee. And follow me, give me a follow. Keep you updated with what's happening. Give me a follow at reality_refugee on Twitter and on Instagram, folks. Thank you very much for being a part of the rush this afternoon with our parliamentary edition. Parliamentary update, the 28th sitting of the 12th Parliament. Like I always say, folks, let's continue to work together for national development. My name is Randolph Critchlow. Do enjoy the rest of the evening. Let me see the comment sections before I go. Let me see the comment sections. Skid says, yes, thank you very much for sharing the credible and valid information. It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure sharing the credible and valid information. Wait, let me see what this person. My notification bell don't ring on time. GT Black Gold. Why is it that your notification bell don't ring on time? You need to change the bell. You need the electronic bell. You look at us from YouTube or Facebook. You're looking at us from Facebook right now. Well, I don't know what's happening with Facebook, but sometimes we normally come live from the APN UAFC main page. So once you like that page, you should get a notification every single time. Folks, thank you very much for being a part. Thank you very much for staying here. Loyal, wonderful people. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Let's continue to work together for national development. My name is Randolph Critchlow. Do enjoy the rest of the evening.